Okay, we're going to kick things off. We're a little bit under pressure for time, so we're going to sort of just jump straight into it. I will let my panelists introduce themselves first.
Morning, David Fisher, Discovery Networks International, look after digital advertising for Europe and increasingly addressable TV and everything that comes along with that challenge.
Leon Siotis, President of Europe for SpotX.
Lara Islan, Director of Advertising Data and Analytics for ITV. Joined ITV about 4 months ago, so quite new to the TV world. I was saying to Leon, I've just about figured out the acronyms, but I'm sure I'll learn a couple more today.
Bhavin Balvanchai, Chief Market Analyst at Omnicom Media Group. I look at kind of geopolitical macro trends and tech trends and how they affect the UK ad market.
Okay, so I think it's fair to say that the TV industry is going through an interesting and quite challenging time. We're seeing digital revenues aren't quite keeping up with the audience erosion that's happening on TV. We're also seeing numerous competitors, we don't need to spell them out, with the obvious ones, Netflix, Amazon, moving into the space. We're seeing various initiatives by the European broadcasters in terms of new alliances and new addressable offerings. But is the industry, the incumbent industry, moving quickly enough? Dave, we'll jump down to you at the end, because are you moving quickly enough, Dave?
I don't think you ever think you're moving quickly enough. My take on that is that I think that an awful lot of innovation has happened that is perhaps not recognised or measured in the way it should be, and I think TV is slightly culpable for that. I think we should have got better at measurement and telling our story in a slightly better way. And my other take on that would be that I think we're in that moment where things happen very slowly, and then they'll happen very quickly. And addressable is, in that space, I think, where you're starting to see, many billions transact on addressable in the States. The UK has got a very smart addressable business now within Sky, and the wider business that they're putting those impressions in with Virgin. So I think TV, in some markets, is getting towards a tipping point in terms of the scale of what it can achieve. And in other markets, it's almost nowhere. But I think that we're about to see a whole raft of technology opportunities open up for TV that are new, that will allow broadcasters such as ITV, Discovery, who don't own the set-top box, to do new and innovative things around addressability and IP-delivered impressions that just to date haven't been possible.
Mm. Leon, as a vendor, the vendors always think everybody isn't moving quickly enough. But what's your feeling?
I mean, I think the short answer is no. Perhaps the more generous answer is you are seeing some extremely innovative things happening, especially if you kind of look at it from a European standpoint. Certain countries are experimenting and doing some great stuff. Also, I think we don't necessarily think about the scrutiny that broadcasters come under from regards to regulators and the like, making it perhaps a bit harder to move at the same speed as kind of digital incumbents. And then lastly, if you talk to some broadcasters, they would say, look, our digital advertising revenues are growing by X percent higher than the industry average. So who are you to tell us that we're not doing things right? But I would still say that definitely things need to move faster than they are today.
Lara, I know you're only 4 months in at ITV.
First impressions,
yes.
Right. I think in game theory they call it second mover advantage, or even last mover advantage. So I think my personal view on this is, yes, I kind of get the legacy of regulation and the fact that broadcasters have tried and proposed different changes across the years, and they've been blocked one way or another. But I'd like to look at it in a positive note, and I think that we have the benefit now of 10 to 15 years of experience in ad tech to learn from. There have been many failures, but there have also been many successes. So, for example, I'm thinking about how do broadcasters, how does video go into this now? Thinking about or sort of avoiding short-termism, avoiding that sort of arms race that we've all been involved in, and start to think about transparent business models and data responsibility as standard as we move forward. And then on the kind of the positive side, as we can benefit now from the immense innovation and investment that's gone into ad tech. and the amazing talent pool that has emerged from that, both from a creative and a technical perspective, basically everyone in this room. And how do we build on that so that we can start to kind of have a programmatic model that will, kind of keep us viable for the long term?
Bhav, I know sort of many sort of programmatic practitioners on the agency side have been complaining for years about, the speed at which things are moving. Is that your experience, or?
I think yes and no. Absolutely, I think programmatic trading desk agency has been set up for it for quite a long time. But I'm not sure if we did have a full kind of addressable landscape a couple of years ago, it would have worked. I don't think the scale was there from a consumer point of view. I don't think the inventory would have been there. And it would almost have been a bit kind of underwhelming in terms of reach and cover and some of the metrics that clients look for. So yeah, I think now though, I think things are kind of all the ducks seem to be in a row. Also, I don't think client kind of data infrastructures were there a couple of years ago. They wouldn't be able to capitalise on some of the market opportunities as they would be able to today. So I'm not entirely sure I'd agree that it hasn't moved quickly enough. I think we're now in a very good place to kind of capitalise on opportunities moving forward, and I think it's just an exciting time to kind of be involved in the space.
But I don't want to go into this sort of lame conversation about how do we define programmatic TV, but what's actually happening on the ground today? Are we still talking about IO-based and then some level of automation, a bit of data thrown in, or are we actually seeing what most people in this audience would recognise as programmatic advertising? Dave, can you give examples of?
Well, I mean, if you take linear TV is not programmatic. Linear TV is traded using TV technologies, and some of those are automated. Different markets do different things, but if you look at the UK, some of that is automated between buying point and TV company in a way that actually you could almost talk about it being programmatic. There's a degree of automation in that, but it doesn't include advertiser data in that buying decision or that buying activation. Where programmatic is happening is in the OTT space, and different organisations are allowing that to happen in different ways. So I think TV companies are very wary of what's happened in the display space. We also have different elements of data to protect. So we might have subscriber data or viewing data that is really rich first-party data. So it's happening in the OTT space. Different organisations with different spaces. So it's akin to programmatic guaranteed today. I think that the thought that TV, so traditional TV, linear TV, which is where most people still watch their TV, massively outweighs the rest of TV. The thought that that's programmatic within 1 year, 3 years, 5 years is a bit of a pipe dream today.
Leon, what are you seeing in terms of how automated is it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, probably kind of more of the former than the latter as far as degrees of automation and how broadcasters are embracing what we would deem to be kind of programmatic technologies. And however, there is a lot of experimentation happening today, and it's one of these areas that you really do need to be working with all sides. There are still going to be things that you can't do in TV that you can do in digital, and therefore you need buy-in from the buying technologies, the agencies. So it's not as easy as just adopting the kind of open web standards today. You kind of have to, adjust them and adapt them in order to work for this, type of environment. And that is slowly starting to happen. And I think we're making progress there.
But I mean, is it ever going to be possible to jump on a DSP and start buying TV, or does regulation, for example?
And when we define TV, are we talking about kind of linear, like standard linear? Perhaps that's a little more challenging. I mean, whether or not, all TV is going to be delivered, over the open internet at some point, I think is up for debate. There's a lot of people, who clearly have vested interests that would argue that that is the case. And as you start to move into that realm, then this becomes much more of a possibility because it's all, kind of brand new, infrastructure that's much more adaptable. While, the kind of former, I think as Dave was saying, I think it's still a good number of years away.
And Lara, one of the things I first encountered when I first went out and started speaking to the TV industry about programmatic was, that there was kept being told that there was this consensus that we're not going to do this, and that it was RTB and race to the bottom. Has the perception now changed, and do they see an opportunity for incremental revenue on top of what they're doing today, or is there still a fear that it's going to erode those bulk deals that they've enjoyed for so long?
I think I think we are embracing programmatic, but I think programmatic as a terminology, it's going to change. It has to. We've heard all about, the death of the cookie. We've heard that for a few years, but it seems like it's actually happening. We know about, kind of new limitations around data regulation. We've seen some models, some auction models not working. I think I've been working programmatic for a few years across a couple of companies now, and I still feel, I think we all feel very strongly in the main tenet of programmatic, which is how do we democratize the media buying? How do we make it, a fair marketplace between buyers and sellers? How do we facilitate all that using data? And all of that, I think, still comes to play. But as we broadcasters kind of move into this space, it's going to look a little bit different, So we're not cookie environments, and that's, we've never had that reliance. So we are maybe first mover advantage in that respect, and how we use our first party ID data to facilitate this media buying. We want to maintain premium environments with premium players. So we're not going to open up to kind of open exchange and things like that. I think it's just redefining how we do this. How do we play in the programmatic space for the new world of programmatic, but also for the type of inventory that we bring to the table?
So do you mind if I'll just stay with you, Lara, on that? Because I think a lot of people have been watching ITV who are traditionally, quite slow moving, and I think often strategically slow moving, and that they didn't really need to move, and the money was still rolling in. But what's the new strategy now? What's the new relationship with Amobee? I think if you just give background.
Yeah, so I'll just talk a little bit about what we're doing. So over the past year or so, ITV has, following our CEO Carolyn McCall's strategic refresh last year, and she talked a lot about investment in data and technology. Specifically, kind of in the advertising space, we've been investing in our technology stack on two fronts. So obviously, you've all heard about the exclusive partnership that we've done with Amobee in UK and Ireland, and we're in the process of building our programmatic platform for addressable TV, which will be launched soon. And then the second element, which is probably the element that I'm a little bit closer to, is we have been rebuilding our customer data platform in-house, and building the teams around that, the data engineering capability, the data science capability around that, so that we are, I think for the first time, bringing our, first-party viewer data, so our logged-in user data, viewing data, advertising data, and data across all of our interactive platforms in one place. And I guess my role, so I'm in a brand new team, I'm in a team's quartet, advertising data, and it's about kind of bridging those two tech platforms. So how do we tap into that first party data so that we can give our advertisers more insight about what users are doing across our platforms? How do we build targeted ad products using that rich data set? And deterministic data set in some elements. How do we do smart data collaboration so we can bring first party and first party data together using our IDs as the match? And I think the biggest, hairiest problem, which you alluded to, is how do we actually lean into this challenge of measurement, because it needs solving. And so these are kind of some of the big chunky things that we've signed up to.
But Bob, for you, how does the average broadcaster's data proposition match up to what you find on digital?
I guess in a way it matches up quite well at the moment, but in a way that's not a good thing, because I think one of the challenges we've had with digital and that we've had with programmatic environments is everything's kind of historically operated in these silos. If you look at the bigger players, so you've got your Google silo, you've got your Amazon silo, and you've got your Facebook silo, and there's no interoperability between the three, so you have to do kind of three very separate buys. There's no kind of cross measurement that kind of happens between any of the three. And the danger we've got at the moment, as we wait for Project Dovetail from Barb to come out and tell us how those link together, is that there seems to be kind of a siloed ecosystem for ITV through Amobee and through the data platform and the measurement they're providing. There's the Sky Analytics platform as well, which kind of operates in isolation, and the data we get back from all four. So at the moment, it's a little bit frustrating because everything seems to be happening. So we're getting very rich data, and we are getting kind of incremental reach and frequency data, but only within given kind of media owners. And it's really kind of when there's more collaboration. I know Sky are trying it with C-Flight, and Channel 4 look like they're going to adopt C-Flight as a kind of a joint measurement kind of planning tool, and we'll see some discovery data kind of coming through C-Flight as well, I think. So that's all encouraging, but yeah, at the moment it does kind of compare quite well with digital, but I don't think digital's the kind of the vanguard of where it could be.
Just for those of you who don't know, Project Dovetail is a project which has been trundling on since 1921 at Barb to move towards digital measurement. Bob, I know you represent the IPA.
Yeah, so I sit on the bar board, so I probably shouldn't have dropped that one in, should I?
What's taking so long?
What's taking so long?
Very slow dove.
Oh, it's very what's taking so long. No. So, I mean, it's a very complex thing that we're trying to get to with Dovetail. Actually, it started in 2015. Which is still a long time ago, I know. And it looks like we're not going to get full commercial campaign measurement until about 2021, so still quite a way in the future. I mean, I guess what's saying, so there is some data out there, so there's 4-screen data for programme viewing, and if you think about Barb, it also supports a £7.5 billion content industry as well as a £5 billion commercial industry, so there is always, that was always going to probably take precedent. Later this year or kind of early next year, we'll get kind of deduplicated reach and frequency kind of across channels and time zone. So there is some data coming from Dovetail at the moment, but it's commercially, in terms of that campaign measurement, which is the data that agencies want, it's data that advertisers want. There's kind of challenges with tagging on smartphones and all the privacy kind of directives and that affect stuff. But really, we can't do anything until the broadcasters kind of tag more, and I don't know if that puts you in an awkward place, Laura, to kind of answer questions on that, but I've just put you in an awkward place to answer questions.
So again, so first impressions. I get the need for kind of measurement solutions that that answer this question about deduplicated reach across linear and digital TV, but I wonder how long we'll be asking those questions. How long are we going to be trying to retrofit the linear TV model of media buying, into the digital, way of buying? I mean, if you look at, we were looking at some of the stats from the Ofcom media report last week. The number now, the penetration of internet connected TVs is at 50% now. And that's up from single digits about 5 or 6 years ago. And you can see that, you can just imagine from previous technology adoption curves, the smartphone, the PCs, etc., that's it's going to go to the 80s and 90s pretty quick. And all of a sudden, then everything is going to be addressable and measurable. And where we draw the line now between how we buy media between TV and digital, should we be thinking about that, or should we be actually planning and kind of changing how we do business for what's going to happen in a few years' time? So, I absolutely see that, this is the way that we transact now, and we need to answer these questions, but we also need to be thinking about what this industry is going to look like in 3 years.
During the prep calls, Bav and I were talking about a brand called, I was talking about whether TV is set up to sort of bring on board this new money from for example, the DTC advertisers, which the Exchange Wire crew are covering in detail. But I was mentioning a brand called Huel, and they're actually, I think, saw some data last week that suggests they're Facebook's biggest spender in the UK. We interviewed him before, the CEO, Julian, before he launched a TV campaign. He was very excited about going into TV. Tried to get him to a TV event a few months later. He said, "I've no interest in TV. It gives us nothing compared to what we get on Facebook." Is this measurement problem, the type of data that brands like that will see, is it holding businesses back?
I think it's an attribution problem, because I think the TV is working for him. I think he's measuring the wrong thing. So whether it's attribution models are a bit shit, or whether he's asking the wrong questions, because TV will be doing work for his brand there. no doubt. He's just addicted to the drug of direct response, and that's a different thing entirely. We have a addressable product in the States now, and 20% of the campaigns that we run on that addressable product are using advertiser data. And, we're a customer of AdSmart in the UK. I think, Sky's AdSmart campaigns are now roughly 20% is advertiser data where they've onboarded it, third-party data environment. And they have an attribution model, which, is their analytics thing. Now, the fact is, it's not probably as, you've got to upload email addresses of people that have bought your product, right? It's still a walled garden. It's still, you're at the mercy of a sort of semi-managed service. But these products are starting to emerge. I think the Huel example is that he's probably looking for the wrong thing. And I think, those direct-to-consumer businesses, and by the way, we run 9 direct-to-consumer businesses, where we sell player content or, we have a golf product and all sorts of things. We know that TV works for those products. It just works in a different way.
I mean, I would say, though, the more friction you put between you and your potential customer, the less likely it is that they're going to buy from you and work with you. So by forcing someone to use a specific type of tech or not allowing them to kind of bring their data assets to the table, ultimately, they're going to go, the path of least resistance, which, ends up being a very simple, kind of Facebook or Google buy. And then also those companies are kind of dictating, that attribution, right? In the same way on the measurement, if you don't come up with your own solution, someone else is going to create it. And guess what? It's not going to work in your favor, right? At the end of the day, it's going to be, much better for them, the creator, than it is for, the people who have to kind of abide by it. So
I think the next thing you'll see from a company like that, because we see this all the time with these, the D2C companies, is they build on Facebook, they build on Google, they build on Instagram, and then they want to reach that next level of growth, they go to TV. So I will guarantee you he's eating his words or drinking his protein powder in about 2 years' time when he's sponsoring some sports event of ours, because they're the customers that are his growth, not the Facebook users that drink it and don't drink it anymore.
Well, myself and Bob actually had a conversation about we both ordered it and we both have 1.5 bags sitting in our kitchen. It's absolutely vile crap.
We both ordered it about 4 years ago before we started advertising.
Yeah, and have the T-shirts. We were thinking about wearing them on stage and thought, bit too much effort. But what's your experience in terms of the as a buyer, the value of TV? Where does it?
Yeah, I mean to build on that, and actually, you should probably point out that the online giants like Amazon and Deliveroo are like some of the biggest spenders on TV in the last 12 months, aren't they? So it definitely does work for digital companies. I think from if we look at it from the reasons why clients go on TV, I mean, it's to drive fame and to drive profitability. Driving fame, I mean, there's still nowhere that you can get the kind of cover build kind of as cheaply and as effectively as you can on TV and on big screen platforms. And then secondly, as you say, I kind of do a bit of work with the IPA as well. Their Marketing in the Era of Accountability report, where they looked at ROI in terms of profitability rather than in terms of sales volume and revenue, showed that TV was the most effective kind of medium at driving profitability in both in kind of short term, which was 3 to 6 months activation, and in the long term, which was 1 to 3 years. So I think every time any of our clients run any econometric study, TV still comes out top. So I think there's still kind of value there. It's just augmenting it now with kind of more kind of client data and first-party data and third-party data to make it even more effective, and trying to solve that last click attribution kind of problem.
Okay, we're running short on time, so let's do some quick-fire answers to my last couple of questions. Will the demise of the cookie and the increase in privacy regulation of the ICO was speaking about this morning, is this going to be good for TV as people look for more contextual solutions or a bit more compliance on data?
Short answer, yes. I think TV and the products we build around our core TV offering have a pretty unique opportunity to drive login data. So short answer, definitely yes.
I definitely don't think that's going to be the saving grace. I think TV needs to innovate beyond it and not, hope that people shift back to buying like they were 20 years ago. So no.
I think it's not your grandmother's contextual that we're talking about today, right? Contextual is so much smarter now with big data technology and data science capability than we can think. So I think contextual is coming back, but it's not the contextual that you knew from the 80s and the 90s. It is so much cleverer. But I think it has to be coupled with another way of doing audience data, for sure.
I think as a broader part of trust and brand safety, yes.
Yeah. One more quick fire question. Who's going to buy ITV? Discovery?
Not that I've heard. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because ITV's been top of the takeover list for years. Everyone thinks that ITV is really attractive, and now the business is diversified beyond advertising. Is that, I think that's a good thing as well. But then the share price doesn't seem to agree with that, so it doesn't look like they're quite top of the list anymore. I mean, I think the consolidation that's happened means that we're in a bit of a pause while a lot of those companies are integrated into the companies.
Quick fire,
that
Dave.
bought them. I'll go Comcast. Comcast.
Not a Castro speech,
No,
please.
they can't subscribe. Don't know.
I mean, yeah, clearly the safest bet is nobody, since this has been the ongoing movement the past 5 years. But maybe a Disney comes into the market.
Yeah.
Pass.
I was going to say Disney.
Disney, yeah, I think Disney is a likely contender. Okay, we're all out of time, so if you give my wonderful panelists a round of applause, please. Cheers.